Hi, this is Kathi Quinn with Floriani. Floriani is a division of R&K Distributing, and I want to welcome you to this week's project of the week. Well, last week we talked about our total quilter. We'll have another total quilter lesson coming up in 3 weeks. I've also been talking a lot about our brand new features. We added so much to the software in February that we haven't even got through all the new update features. However, I had some questions in a class that I want to answer because I know if one person has them, a lot of people do. And I realized that a lot of you are missing some really easy editing tools, things that help you manipulate designs. DJ is very cognizant of digitizing features because DJ and Walter are digitizers. Most of us are manipulators. We don't see a flower in our head and digitize it from scratch, or we don't bring in a piece of artwork. But we may still have that flower in our head. However, we can manipulate existing things to morph into what we want a lot of times. And he's always got great digitizing tools in here. And I just want to show you some that I think are being underused that would make your lives a lot simpler. Now, first off, I've gone into my library and I went to our free monthly designs and I've gone to April 2016. When I click on my designs folder, there they all are. Now this is one of the most wonderful features I believe in this software because I can see everything in the folder at a glance, and then I can hold my left mouse key and drag anything on screen I want. If I want more than one item, I don't have to go to File, Merge Stitch File, then go to See Floriani Designs, Free Monthly Designs, April 2016, and pick the one flower I want. I can just drag and add. Very simple. So this already is a great feature. But now we want to look at some stuff on screen that I want to talk about. We have some icons down here. The last 4 icons, there's 5 icons. I take it back. The last 5 that I think we don't really understand. Now the first icon, which is wonderful for those of us that want to do some I'm going to collapse these so it looks nice. For those of us that would like to edit, to morph something, to transform, manipulate a design, this makes it easier. Now the first one I want to talk about is our Show Stitches icon. If I wanted to edit the stitches around here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. Let's say, and I'm going to turn off this, we're going to talk about those too. Let's say I want to edit some outlines in here. But it's kind of hard because you've got stitches on stitches. You're on top of other stitches, and sometimes it's a little hard to grasp. So by turning off the stitches, all I'm left with now is the outline. So now if I want to edit an outline, it's very simple. Now I can come here and say I want to edit this outline. Select it. Whoops. Okay, baby, let's come back here. Let's edit an outline. Let's select what we want to edit. Oh, I'm grouped. Excuse me. Let me ungroup this. I'm thinking, man, there we go. Now I'm ungrouped. And now I can just pick out what I want to work with here. So I'm going to turn you there. I'm going to come in here and pick what I want to work with. So if I want to work with just this one outline, I could grab it. I could go to Shape Outline, the Shape tool, and now I can come in here and I could alter this outline shape. By hitting enter, it'll change my outline and it'll also change the fill to fit it. So I could come in here if I wanted to do something this with, hit enter. Now when I turn my stitches back on, you can see my stitches are all there, no problem. But I didn't have to deal with them in front of my eyes like on the edge of this center. I've got the center color outlines on top of this color, and it just gets to be a lot. So if I turn that off, I can very easily see the outlines. Now another cool feature. Okay, that's pretty cool. But sometimes I need to kind of know where those stitches are. But sometimes they're tone on tone, and we'll look at something point in case in a moment. But I have an icon down here that looks like a ghost. Now if I turn him on, let's hide something. Let's say I'm going to hide this red. See, I could effectively, if I didn't do my turn off stitches, I could effectively turn off that red color. Now it also took out the red outline stitches, but I could turn that off. But now, sometimes you're blind. You need to see what's underneath to know what you're going to edit to. So by hitting my little ghost, I've told it, turn off that color, but let's ghost, because I still, see how it has this light gray? I still want to see where that color is laying under there. So now if I edit over the top of it, it's not going to affect me. It's not a bright color. I'm not going to select it by accident because it is turned off, but I am going to be able to see where its placement is. So that little ghost, now you can only use him when you turn off a color. Let me turn that color back on. Okay, now there's no point in the ghost because I can see the color. But if I turn it off, there's the ghosted color. Now if I don't want the ghost, I can turn him off and there's nothing there. But that ghost kind of is like a placeholder. We can still see what's going on around everything by having that in the background there to see. So these are really cool features. I love this show stitches. I'm going to fit this to screen because you can see how nice this show stitches is because I've turned it off. Now the only stitches that are going to be left on here, like these are all a straight run stitch. So you can see it's taken away the stitches, but anything that's just created with outline, that's all going to be left because those aren't the fill stitches. They're just the outline stitches. So I've taken away show the stitches. Now I've just got the outlines. Now I can come in here and edit and play. Makes it a lot easier. A lot of people don't understand what that is for. Let me turn back on this color. Wake these guys up. Let me make sure everybody's awake. Show all. All my colors are awake. Show stitches is off. Show stitches is on. So you can see what a help that would be. Now the next one I want to talk about here with this is I want to talk about our stitch points. Now let's look at what good would that do us. Well, in a lot of things it can help us a whole lot. So let's go ahead and let's zoom in. I'm crazy on grabbing these today. Let me zoom in. Been having that problem all day, clicking too fast. Okay, now my mouse is over here. We all agree. Okay, zoom. All right. Well, geez, I'm having fun with this. Let us zoom, darling. There we go. All right. Now this show stitches, stitch points, excuse me. Show stitches is with the stitches in the eyeball. The next one is stitch points. Now everywhere you see a dot is where the needle penetrates the fabric. Those are your actual stitch ends. And sometimes we want to edit these. Let's really zoom in. Okay, sometimes we want to edit these little stitch points. So by that we go to our stitch tool, and now I can grab just this stitch point. Now I could say I want to pull him out a little bit and enter. I'm editing just the stitch point. So we can come in, grab a stitch point and edit just that stitch point. See what I'm doing? I'm editing just the stitch point. Grabbing, holding down my mouse key, and moving. So I can edit a stitch point, and the reason I had to do it 3 times is this is more than one stitch. It's not a single stitch. There's 3 stitches there. But I can come in and I can play with these stitch points. Sometimes you need to edit a stitch point. Sometimes you want to delete a stitch point. You can select it. Now that it's selected, whatever you want to do, you can. I can come in here and say, let's delete it. Okay, let's undo is my friend. I can grab this stitch point and let me pull this down. I can grab this stitch point and I can say, you know what? I want to trim right there, and I can apply that trim. So notice it trimmed at that stitch point. See how it's now a dotted line? I told it to cut it right there at that stitch point. So I'm only going to have a stitch at the one before and the one after and the one before it. Undo is our friend. I can grab that stitch point and I could say, you know what? I want you to stop right here. So now I've told the machine, come here and stop. So you can do a lot of stuff with these commands in here by grabbing your stitch points, and how you see them is down here. So once we do that, we can come in here and play to our heart's content with all of this stuff. So you can have a lot of fun here. Undo is my friend. So always remember, undo is your friend. So you can come in and play with stitch points, move stitch points. I can even come in here and say, okay, I've got this stitch point, right mouse click, I want to insert one before. And so now I can say I need to enter a stitch point. I don't know where before is to this one. Let me see. Insert after. So now you can see I can insert a stitch point after this one, after this one, after this one. Now look how many stitch points I have. Whoops. There we go. Now see, I added all these little stitch points in here. Why would you want to do that? Well, sometimes if you wanted, let's say between letters is what's classic. I have letters and there's a travel stitch, but it's really too short to trim. Well, I could come in there and by adding several stitch points about 1 millimeter apart, it would drive it so far down in the fabric, you wouldn't see that there was a trim needed there. You wouldn't see the thread. It would go down into the fabric. So you might want to add in between small lettering. You might have a thing that's too long and you need a couple of extra stitches in there. So you can, this is something that is really nice to know. Sometimes I use it for deleting. Sometimes I'll have a place where I can't really just delete a whole section, but I can grab that stitch point and I can delete a few of them. So see, I wanted to delete this part right in here. So I could delete those out. Maybe I just wanted part of the ball or part of something, and the easiest way to do it was to delete a few stitches and pull it out. So you have lots and lots of ways to play with stitch points. And you know what? You can't hurt anything. Go in here and play. Play with something. As long as you don't save it over anything that's good, you know, bring something in and file, save as, rename it as, you know, can do anything to. And then you can play with all these things without worrying about messing up a regular design. So those two we've talked about. Now the next one down here is a close shape tool, and I can't tell you how important it is to have this tool. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use a run stitch. Okay, and I've used my presets. I have several presets in here. We talked a little bit about that a couple weeks ago. I can put in presets. This is a double run stitch, a need a good red work stitch, a quilt base stitch. So I can do all kinds of fun things in here. But I'm going to select this 5-bean red work, and I'm going to do this. And I actually want to, and you know what I've got on here. Let me come up here. Right mouse click. I'm going to go to grid settings. Right now I've got it show grid. Okay, I'm good. I just want to make sure I didn't have snap to grid on. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Now I want this shape to close because I was creating the shape I wanted. Now if I try and click on top of this blue box, I'm going to assume with my eyesight that I got it. Chances are you're never going to hit that point exactly, and you're not going to have a pretty, you're going to have a glitchy looking place when that stitch is out. So by coming down here and hitting close shape, it will close that shape and generate the stitches all at once. So now it closed it, so we know it's a perfect meet. Now I would look at this. I'm going to grab this shape, select it if I can here. There we go. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and look at my shape and see it started here and it's ending here. So I could change my start and my stop if I wanted to. I could change all those things. You know, I just want one run, so I would probably have it just like it did, start and stop on top of each other. I don't ever like to start at a point or at a corner. I like to start in the middle, so I would probably have changed those to there. So now it's going to start here and stop here, so it'll go around one time. Well, actually, it's going to go around. It's going to do the 5-bean stitch, so it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and continue around. Now don't get mixed up. These are points to change my outline. And you see these are close together and these are far apart. That is not stitch length. My stitch length is 4.0. I've got it right here. But it looks, some people get the idea that these boxes have to do with that. No. Let's look at our stitches. Let's go ahead and turn this off. Now let's look at our stitch end, and let me zoom in so you can see it. Come on, baby, let's zoom in. There you go. So see my stitch ends? You see they're every 4 millimeters. They look great. They're perfect. They're wonderful, but they don't have to do with the blue boxes. And I know people get mixed up with that a lot because I get that question all the time. But my boxes are too close together. You do want as few, when you're digitizing or creating, you do want as few control points is what they are. Let's select this again and let's go back to our shape tool. You want as few of these control points as you need to do for your need to make the shape. You don't want one every, right next to each other all the way down. There's no reason for that. You want the least amount of points, but you want enough to create what you want without a problem. You want to have enough of them, but not all over the place. But your stitches are still going to drop every 4 millimeters because that's what this says. So you get that. Okay, now the next one I want to talk about is this toggle view backdrop. I've had more people confused with this. This is our backdrop tool. This brings in JPEGs, okay? Not artwork. These are actually JPEGs. So this is going to come up like a backdrop. It's like behind your screen so you can trace over it. So I'm going to open this, and this is a backdrop. Now I'll show you the difference. If I zoom in on this backdrop, it's a JPEG. So do you see how none of this is smooth and pretty and clean? Whereas if I had brought in a piece of artwork, you have to either file import artwork or you have to go get artwork. Okay, so now I'll pick this, and I'll pick a solid piece. Okay, so let's pick this guy. Now let's zoom into him. Come here, my little zoomy guy. Him and I are not friends. Oh, today. I don't know why, but we're not friends today. Shh. Okay, my lovey. You're there. I see you. There we go. Now notice how perfect and clean that line is versus this line. Backdrops are made up of pixelated images. They're JPEGs, bitmaps, TIFFs, GIFs, things like that. Now if I brought this in, the idea is I can create over the top of it. But now that I brought it in, I'm going to say I'm going to create over the top of it. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to grab my classic satin, and I'm going to come in here and say, okay, I want to do this. Whoops. So you can see I'm creating this. I'm going over this because I want to turn this word sew into some stitches here. You get the idea. I'm not going to go all the way up. Now I've generated those stitches. Let me turn off those stitch points. So I've generated stitches here. Now I might want to see where I am in according. I might want to turn this off and see how it looks. If I notice now it's available. It wasn't available before. But now that I've got a backdrop up here, I can click on this and turn this on and off. All that is to turn, because a lot of times people say, how do I turn off the picture? This is how you turn off the backdrop, because that backdrop is not going to affect what sews out or anything. It's just there for us to trace over. That's basically what it is, to give us a tracing piece. So that's what this icon is for. Now we've talked about our ghost, we talked about our show stitches, we've talked about our stitch points, and we have talked about our close shape tool. So these are all wonderful icons to use while you're working. Now, one other thing I do want to tell you. A lot of times people will tell me, well, I've lost it's not selected anymore. How do I get it to select? I can't select my artwork again. All you have to do is retouch the backdrop tool. Once I retouch it, notice it selected it again, where I can now work with the properties for the backdrop. Okay, I've been doing that all day. Everything I do, I pull that. My fingers must be electric today on my touchpad. And that's all the stuff I didn't do today. Okay, so those are the features I wanted to talk about this week because I think they're important features. I think it's a big help to be able to use those. So get your design up. Save it as a junk design so you can go in and play with all these features, work with them, because I'm going to tell you, you will find them invaluable. So I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a wonderful weekend, and I hope your holiday was tremendous.